All right, people. It is Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, which means it is time for another episode of Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on Fans Only Sports Network. I'm your host, Chet, and as always, to my right is my counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how are we doing today on this
Good
July
evening,
14th
Chet.
day?
Happy July 14th, my man. I'm excited to be back. I haven't had a show, I don't think, since July started. I think our last show was the last day of June. So excited to be here, my friend. Got some stuff to catch up on.
Yeah, we have a lot to catch up on. I mean, obviously, right now, news has kind of been a little bit dry for the most part in terms of where we are in the season right now in most sports. I mean, really, the only active sport going on at the moment is baseball. So, I mean, baseball we'll touch upon closer towards the end of the episode, but for the most part, we're going to keep it with the NFL. And we got some topics here to go over real quick, just a few quick ones. And of course, a lot of them are going to surround the Cleveland Browns organization. To start off with that one, we're going to have to talk about what just happened a few weeks ago before we could even really get on top of it. So the Cleveland Browns agreed to a trade with the Carolina Panthers to trade Baker Mayfield in exchange for a fifth-round draft pick for the 2024 season. Baker Mayfield finally leaving the organization after the team traded for Deshaun Watson back in the early parts of the 2022. And now he will likely be fighting with Sam Darnold for that starting job down there.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield finding a new home. It's about time. I mean, his name has been swirling around the trade market the last 3 or 4 months, ever since they got Deshaun Watson's from the Houston Texans. So it's about time he got traded. I mean, the Carolina Panthers were definitely one of the quarterback needy teams this offseason. That was a potential destination for him the whole summer so far. So it's good they finally got this done. I think Baker Mayfield is 100% an upgrade over whatever Carolina has at quarterback right now. They have Sam Darnold as the incumbent starter, and they just drafted Matt Corral in the third round in April. So Baker Mayfield adds to an already kind of big prospect quarterback room. I don't want to say talented quarterback room because Sam Darnold really hasn't done anything in the NFL, and Matt Corral, and he was projected to go early in the first round for a lot of his final season at Ole Miss, but fell to the third. So Baker, I mean, it's his job to lose right now. Week 1 on that schedule is against the Cleveland Browns, so I'm sure he has got that one circle on his calendar a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be a big revenge game for him because really towards the end of the 2021 NFL season, we were kind of really looking at the way the Cleveland Browns were treating Baker Mayfield. And it was just very disappointing to see how almost ungrateful, I guess is the word, in my opinion, for the services he brought to the team. And this was a guy who a year ago broke the streak of the Cleveland Browns not making the postseason for the first time in nearly 2 decades. They get to the playoffs and the first round destroy the Pittsburgh Steelers right out of the gate, led by a very talented Ben Roethlisberger at the time and a great squad for him going into there, nearly taking down Kansas City in the divisional round to move on to the conference championship. Could have. Somehow they stepped up to the occasion and the Browns just fell flat in their face. But then 2021 comes around after the 2020 season, and Mayfield goes through the struggles again, and we see him leave several games, not play a full season last year. He was hurt for a lot of it, having a shoulder injury, sustained that actually against the New England Patriots in a 45-7 loss last season. And going forward since then, he kind of had been treated like he could have done more. And it's like, we've said it time and time again. There's not much he could have done. He was banged up. The team was not in a good position. They were dysfunctional. They had to deal Odell Beckham last year. Jarvis Landry was kind of banged up himself. Austin Hooper was really the only shining piece on that offense. And then Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt were both dealing with injury last season. So this was not a Cleveland Browns team that was ready to make a playoff push last year. They were banged up, and there just wasn't much that you could ask of Baker Mayfield to do besides of what he already was doing.
Yeah, banged up and a lot of egos in that team. I mean, that's a team last year with the Browns that started off early in the season with some drama with Odell Beckham's dad making the highlight tape of Baker not throwing him the football.
So I almost forgot about that. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy how that works. And OBJ becomes a Super Bowl champion, and everyone loves OBJ again. But Baker, like you said, Chet, kind of the scapegoat for the Cleveland Browns last year. I mean, this team was really not where they needed to be. Really have improved and gotten healthy this offseason. That's why they're, highly touted for 2022. But last year, I mean, not the best of years. Did Baker underperform? Yes, absolutely. Only 17 touchdowns to 13 picks. And, only one hit. I think they went 8-9 last year, I believe. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a team that on paper should have won 11 or 12 games last season, with the way they looked in 2020. But it wasn't all Baker. I mean, you got to remember, Baker Mayfield in our lifetimes, me and you, Chet, this is the best quarterback the Cleveland Browns have ever had. And
absolutely.
it's not even close. I mean, before last year, they hadn't won a playoff game since the 1995 season. It's 25 years in between playoff victories. And Baker Mayfield, I mean, he brought them out of irrelevancy for the last few years. I mean, this is a team
Yeah.
that, when he got drafted, went 1-31 over the last 2 seasons,
Yeah. This
and
was
four wins over the previous 3, 4-34. So I think Baker's gets a bad rap.
he does.
I don't think it was going to work in Cleveland. With the way all the rumors in that front office. With the way that he was character-wise, being a child of a quarterback. But I don't know. I really do root for him in Carolina. I think everyone's going to root for him in Carolina in wake of the Deshaun Watson allegations. But, I mean, I think it's a good divorce. There's a much-needed divorce between Baker Mayfield and the Browns. And, inconsistent quarterback, but still their best in the last 2+ decades, without a doubt.
Absolutely. And kind of touch upon like the thoughts of Brown's former QBs. The only ones I can think of off the top of my head are Colt McCoy, Brandon Whedon. I mean, I could go on. I'd have to look it up probably because
Josh McCown for
Josh
a couple
McCown.
games.
Yep, McCown. That's right.
Jason Campbell.
Yeah, that was the name I was trying to think of
Think
too.
of another one. Oh, Brian Hoyer, dude.
Yeah,
He
Hoyer.
had a nice year in Cleveland.
And you look at the way, so Cleveland.
Deshaun Kaiser, too. You can't forget him.
Yeah.
The 0-16.
Kaiser. Yeah.
Started all 16 games. And now he's out of the league.
Yep.
Because he's had a bad rap on the Browns. This is why, think about it. If Baker Mayfield doesn't win 7 games his first year as the Browns quarterback, does he get the same treatment as that? If he goes 3-13, is he out after 2 years? And the Browns just can't figure it out. I mean, Baker Mayfield is a much better quarterback people want to give him credit for.
Exactly. And
he's had 2 mediocre years, but his other 2 years were he was a top probably 12 quarterback in the league.
Yeah.
Maybe 15, but
drafted number 1 overall in 2019, and you look at the numbers since his rookie season, over 3,000 yards every single year, including last year. He finished with 3,010 yards despite the injury and still had 20-plus touchdowns in all those seasons. And in terms of INTs, he managed to solve the numbers after the 2019 season when he was second in interceptions behind Jameis Winston that year, throwing for 21 interceptions. But you look at the numbers, and they're good. They're exactly what you need from a starter and a guy that you need for your organization to be successful. And now you take a look at the Carolina Panthers offense, and you've already got yourself a pretty decent core in terms of what you got at tailback between Christian McCaffrey, Chuba Hubbard, Royce Freeman, and then at the receiving core, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson. And I mean, even at tight end, Ian Thomas, not really a bad player to look at in terms of getting downfield. And they just have options there for him to throw to. Sure, it's not a ton, but he's got some good pieces to work with. And especially if they can keep Christian McCaffrey healthy, I think this offense might have to fine-tune some things next season, because what it comes down to with this team is ever since McCaffrey came to the team, the offense goes through him. And if Baker wants to be successful, he's going to have to work with them, but not just him. He's going to have to work with the rest of that offense to get them on track and on the same page as he is if they want to be successful and potentially make a playoff berth.
I mean, the thought of Christian McCaffrey being healthy is a little bit comical. We've seen how the last 2 years have played out.
It's kind of sad, really, you know?
I wouldn't say comical in the sense that he got hurt, but comical just to think that he's going to play full 16 games. I don't think it's going to happen. But, I saw right when Baker got traded, it was like new big 3 in Carolina. Baker, Mayfield, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. I mean, this is a team with some weapons. And they got a good defense, too. I mean, they had a really up-and-coming defense last year with Jeremy Chin, who was arguably the rookie of the year defensively 2 years ago, and some of the good defenders. Trying to think of the names of some key guys on their team.
I'll check right
Um,
now for you. Yeah,
James is
Shaq Thompson.
James Bradbury still on the Panthers, or is he on the Giants now?
Bradbury's on the Giants now, I believe. But you got Gilmore there now. You've
Yeah,
got
Shaq Thompson too. That's another name I forgot. Big name.
Daquan Jones,
Brian
Derek
Plant,
Brown.
the great defensive end. I mean, this is a team with a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. And Robbie Anderson, too. I know Robbie Anderson didn't want Baker Mayfield to go to the Carolina Panthers. He's going to have to live with it now. But, Baker Mayfield, I'll say it one more time, best quarterback the Browns have ever had in our lifetime. Went 29-30 as their starting quarterback in his career.
Did you mention Hassan Reddick and Brian Burns?
Yeah, I mentioned Brian Burns, but Reddick's on the team, too. Yeah, isn't he?
Led the team with 11 sacks last year as a linebacker.
But Baker Mayfield, I mean, anyone who will go. He's actually Reddick signed with the Eagles. I knew he left the team, but
I didn't know either.
I had a feeling. J.C. Horn too. 8th overall pick in the draft last year. This is a really talented squad, and definitely better than the Cleveland squad Baker Mayfield walked on to 4 years ago. Any quarterback that can go a game under 500 with the Cleveland Browns in a 4-year tenure is successful to me. So this change of scenery should be great for him. He has a lot to prove. He's got a big chip on his shoulder, and there's not many quarterbacks with this type of mindset in the league. Sure, he has the maturity questions, but all I can tell is this guy's a competitor, and he's going to have some games where he wakes up feeling dangerous.
Yeah, and I mean, if you want, I'm kind of curious to see what their schedule is going to be like next year. So for the 2022 season, obviously they start out against Cleveland. Let's see, what are some big matchups here? They got the Cardinals and the Niners at home. Oh, wow, they play 3 NFC West opponents from week 4 through 6. They play the Cardinals and the Niners at home, and then they go to LA to play the Rams, and then they come home and play Tampa right after.
The tough stretch of games right there.
They got Baltimore. They go to Baltimore, and then they come home and play Denver. And then they've got, they go to
Cincy too.
They've got a tough schedule for them this season. I don't really see them finishing with more than 8 wins, honestly. And in terms of what that division looks like, I mean, it's going to come down to how the New Orleans Saints play this year. Because, I mean, for me, Tom Brady and the Bucs, they've already won the South. That's kind of the way I look at it right now. Unless some type of injury happens, some type of things happen. That's just the way sports is. But I think if the Panthers want to have a good foothold in the division, it's going to come down to their series between them and the Saints. Because Jameis Winston's going to be back this year. Michael Thomas will likely be back this year. Alvin Kamara will likely be back, potentially. There's potential. But they're going to have to play a tough defense.
That's a whole other story I always forget about, that he punched a dude.
And
games.
It sounds like
week 3 too, so you might.
It sounds like that got swept under the rug too.
But they were still looking at it as of a few weeks ago. But the Carolina Panthers, I think it's not only about their division; it's about the conference as a whole. I mean, the NFC, we talk about it all the time on this podcast. It's looking a lot rough going into next year. A lot more rough, a lot less decent quarterback play, and Baker Mayfield already catapults probably into the top 7 quarterbacks in the conference now, as opposed to the AFC where he was probably around 12 or 13. So, you look at the NFC East. I mean, probably the Eagles and Cowboys make the playoffs. That's probably it. Maybe Washington could be a contender for wild card spot. There's 3 wild cards. NFC North, Packers win the division, I would say, but. And there's other 3 teams. We've seen them choke the last few years. Minnesota, maybe. But, they haven't come out strong as of late the last 2 seasons. But in the NFC South, I mean, Bucs will win the division, obviously. And I'll put any amount of money on that they're going to win the division.
But I guess, my question to you now would be, where would you place the Panthers in those standings?
I think the Panthers, look at the NFC, I think they're going to finish on the cusp of the playoffs. Probably 9 or 10, probably like 10th in the NFC.
Yeah.
Maybe 9th. It's going to come out of the last few weeks. I think that they're going to have to win a lot of games, or at least a few games that they shouldn't win. Get some upsets late in the season. Maybe beat Tampa Bay once. They play them in week 7 and week 17. You got to take care of that Atlanta Falcons series against Marcus Mariota, and they got the AFC North this year too. So that's 4 pretty decent teams. They have to win at least 2 of them. A lot of tough games in the NFC West too. That's really another tough division. Whole other animal they gotta beat. So this is a tough schedule for Carolina Panthers, but in a weak NFC, if they can just take care of the games they have to and win some of the games they shouldn't, they should be right up there in the mix till early in January.
Yeah, I think that's a solid point right there, and that's something that I think is something to look forward to for Baker Mayfield. I think the trade worked out well for him. The Browns didn't obviously get much back, but I mean, what were they going to get out of it? There's not much you can really ask for at that point, especially with what your team's got. So, I mean, at this point, that kind of is a good segue into the quarterback who will now be the franchise quarterback of the Cleveland Browns, who we've talked numerous amount of times about on this
Probably
show.
our most discussed man in the history of the show.
Absolutely. He's definitely taken the cake for that. And we have to mention how
Brady.
Yeah. And we kind of have to mention now how in recent news there was discussion out of ESPN in Cleveland of Deshaun Watson's potential suspension. And we're hearing rumors right now that it's only up to 4 to 6 games at this moment. Doesn't mean that it's solidified as that, but it's a start. But the question is, do we like it? And obviously, I'm going to tell you right out of the gate, I hate it. That's easily one of the worst things you could do in terms of a suspension for what this guy's done. Like, sure, the Houston Texans said, ride the bench for the whole season. We're not starting you because of the things you've done. It's like, I mean, this guy needs to pay for it at the end of the day. And I don't think 4 to 6 games is enough to really say, hey, he understands what he did at the end of the day. But obviously I want more than that. But, beggars can't be choosers at this point, especially with the type of player he is and in this league.
The type of money he has too.
And the type of money, obviously. But I don't know. I disagree with it completely. I think we should be seeing at least a full season for this guy. I don't think he should be starting for any team right now.
I agree. I agree completely. I don't think he should be starting either for any team as of week 1. I mean, we're about 7 weeks away from the first Sunday of NFL action, 7-8 weeks away. By the way things are looking, I don't think this will even be solved before then. I mean, I think we would have had a better idea if it was going to be solved at all. So I think he's going to end up missing a few games as a result of that at the beginning of the year and then added the suspension. So it'll probably be more than 6, 7 games. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is all about setting precedent. This is a guy who is a alleged sexual predator. 60 plus women have spoken up about this. 20 plus, over 2 dozen have, put their names in lawsuits against sexual misconduct. This is a guy who is really a demon, and not in a good way. This is really a menace to society. Maybe I'm a little bit hyperbolic. I don't know the whole X's and O's, obviously, but when you have that many women coming up and speaking against you, it's pretty hard to
not believe it.
To not believe it. So I think in terms of the precedent it's going to set a bad precedent. They kind of set this precedent 12 years ago with Big Ben's suspension of 4 to 6 of 6 games reduced down to 4 back in 2010 when he was under similar fire. But to the magnitude that Deshaun Watson's case is, he already missed a whole year as it was last year with this. And, I think just with the amount more that's already been spoken on it, he should, kind of repeat the same sentence. So it also brings up the point. I mean, we just saw Calvin Ridley get suspended for a whole season for making 3 parlays totaling $1,500, which is, a lot.
Which is chump change for him.
Yeah, it's lots of guys like you and I, but it's pennies on the dollar for Calvin Ridley, who's making 15+ million a year.
Yeah.
So I just think it's a bad look for the NFL, and I think, the NFL is and football at college stages too. I mean, they've really covered up sexual assault, tried to kind of not speak too much on it, and not make it more than what it is. But that's the problem with society today. So,
and I think the problem
6-game suspension would completely.
Yeah. And I think the main thing that has always been kind of a big question mark about the NFL and its disciplinary action is where's the line drawn? Because for the most part, it seems like there really isn't a clear line for these suspensions for the most part. I mean, and the magnitude in which people investigate and kind of look at these crimes and things that happen that these players cause. It's like we see it all the time. Stuff happens with these players. I mean, obviously, with Henry Ruggs, for example, the DUI, that incident, yes, he needs to be out of the league immediately. This is another one of those things where, it's on the line, but I mean, I think it's crossed the line enough where it's like you need to discipline him hardcore here. Like there is without a doubt you need to, especially with the magnitude of what we're seeing from these allegations. At the end of the day, I look at all this and, I think there just needs to be something drawn out by the league where they can kind of come to an understanding and also I'm getting text notifications out of the blue. I should have turned them off. Anyways, they need to be able to look at these cases and clearly be able to decipher and be like, okay, this is what we need to do going forward. This is how many games a person who does this will get suspended for, or maybe even not even play football ever again for. So it's just one of those things where I feel like the NFL is just too they aren't clear cut with their decisions. And if they want to look more professional to not just the players, but to most importantly, its fan base, its consumers, they need to do something that that people can look at them and take them more seriously as a result.
Absolutely. And no one's really taken the NFL seriously in that regard. Or, football people in general when it comes to covering up sexual assault. So, or disciplining it as well as much as they should. I mean, every year we have issues of domestic violence and sexual assault allegations. I mean, Ezekiel Elliott got suspended 6 games for his sexual misconduct from 4 years ago, or 5 years ago now, actually. It's 2017, which, there's a video of him grabbing a lady's chest on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pirate in the stadium, pirate ship in the stadium, and that got him 6 games. So these allegations against Deshaun Watson, I mean, 66 women, man, like 24 speaking against you. Sure that he paid a lot of settlements out. All these 13-year-olds on Instagram are like, "Hey, he's innocent. He's free Deshaun." No. We've said it so many times in the show. It's a little bit redundant by us, but there should be no way. Should be no way. None.
There shouldn't
he
be
plays
any
a snap
way.
in 2022. It would be a travesty. A lot of Browns female fans were pretty distraught over the max signing of Deshaun Watson, making this man the highest paid player in the NFL at the time of his signing. 5 years, $238 million. Guaranteed. Disgusting. It's disgusting.
Being paid just about $250,000, $1 billion.
I don't think
$250
anything
million.
that happens to Deshaun Watson will be as bad of a look as that for football. It's him getting paid that much money.
Exactly. And I mean, it's like the league can't do anything in terms of like, oh, how much money do organizations pay players? I mean, obviously they have the cap room and all that, but for Cleveland, it's just unprofessional as a franchise to go ahead and do that, especially with the amount of cloud that surrounds this guy. Honestly, if I were any team in the NFL or any owner in the NFL, it's just me. It's just me. This is just me. I don't own billions of dollars at the end of the day, but I mean, I wouldn't want to set foot near this guy. I wouldn't want to pay this guy a single cent of any of my hard-earned money because I know one of what it would do in terms of backlash. And I mean, hey, I don't know. Maybe they know something I don't. It's one of those things, but it's disgusting to say the least.
It is disgusting, man. And it makes me a little bit sick. And it has for a while. Not just his actions, but the way the league's handled it and the way the league will continue to. Because, I know Deshaun Watson is a big money maker to the National Football League. He's one of the best athletes in the NFL, but they got to do what's right here. They got to do what's right.
They do. They absolutely do. And the question is if they will. That question will come with time, of course. So that concludes our talk there of Deshaun Watson. Obviously, when we get more news about the suspension, because I really hate talking about it all the time, but, when we get more news on that, we'll bring it up as usual. We'll have to go over it. He's probably been the most talked about athlete on this podcast since its conjuring, if you may, or its conception, I should say. So now, this brings up a little bit of some drama that it has to do with New York Jets quarterback Zach Wilson. Apparently, his ex-girlfriend comes out and says that he has had sexual relations with her mother's best friend. And this is interesting news. And Zach Wilson came out today, breaking the silence, saying, "What I miss."
Yeah, that's a pretty baller line. Rumors swirling that Zach Wilson cheating on his old ex-girlfriend with his mother's best friend. It's pretty crazy when you think about it. Many people, young men, say that's a man's dream come true. But I don't know. It's pretty crazy to think about. But Zach Wilson really got some good praise from NFL fans. A lot of Jets fans loving their franchise quarterback a little bit more after that. And it all started when his ex-girlfriend started dating his BYU roommate and ex-best friend Dax Milne.
That's the thing. Even reading this article here, it even says it's kind of uncertain as to when they specifically broke up. Like, there's no clear.
A little bit ago.
Yeah,
he definitely cheated though. Because that's what she was trying to insinuate, I believe. But hey, I mean, Zach Wilson, a little bit of a distraction to his second season. But fun fact about Zach, he now has more MVP betting odds or bets on his MVP odds than Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers on a Caesar Sportsbook,
which is nuts.
All the people are hyped about Zach Wilson.
Is it going to happen? No,
the former BYU quarterback repping Cougar Nation pretty well right now. I honestly loved it when it came out, the news.
When you told me earlier this afternoon, because honestly, somebody mentioned something.
I don't know how you didn't hear about it yet.
I don't know, man. It was just, I've been kind of I've just kept my head down recently in terms of not in terms of news. Like, if it pops up, I'll see it, but it's I don't know. I'm not searching through the headlines anymore.
You probably just forgot to go on Instagram that day.
Probably.
It was all over NFL memes. You would have seen it for sure.
I definitely would have. I mean, I've been working all the time lately, and honestly, a lot of my attention has been on Major League Baseball as of this moment, since we're about to hit the All-Star break.
Yeah.
Which we'll get to in just a moment, very briefly. But I mean, in terms of this is definitely, I can't really put a finger on if this is just something to really distract people in terms of oh, well, maybe this is just her kind of throwing shade at him again for something. But at the end of the day, it's a distraction. And Zach Wilson clearly showing clear-cut signs of the way he's handling it, that he's not letting it bother him. And he's doing the right thing as a professional athlete to not let this type of drama get the best of him, be above it, as people say. I mean, hey, I have to deal with crap like this sometimes myself, where it's people will try and stir stuff up, but you got to be the bigger man at the end of the day and be above it.
Absolutely. I thought I almost deleted our banner. I was gonna fix this banner. It was bothering me. It was his mother's best friend, not his ex-girlfriend's mother. But you're right. He's got to keep his head down. He did what he had to do, or I guess he did what he didn't have to do. But he's poised for a big year too. That Jets team got a lot better, got a whole lot better in the draft this year. Getting Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson in the first round, and another first round. They got a defensive end. I forget his name, but rookie quarterback Zach Wilson last year, 3-10 in 13 starts, just 9 touchdowns and 11 picks on the season. Trying to make big strides for year 2, but people forget end of his rookie year, he really cut down the turnovers the last half of the season. Had some upset wins against the Tennessee Titans. And I think that was really his only upset win, but Jets team. I
Because
mean,
he ended up getting hurt, right?
he did get hurt for a few games, but he played most towards the end of the season. That Jets team almost beat the Bucks in Week 17 too. I think we also forget about that as well. The game that Antonio Brown spazzed out on the sideline. But
Yeah. And I mean, you look at the picks they made in this draft. I believe it was 3 players they managed to select in the first round. The Jets definitely look like they're stocking up on some top tier talent. And they're looking like they're ready for maybe in the next few years to potentially be a contender in the AFC East. So, I mean, Zach Wilson, he showed signs of stardom last year, I have to say. He did impress me in certain ways. And I mean, hey, the team he's on, it's just a start. It's one of those things that he's going to have to work through and mature as time goes on. I'm sure we'll see Zach Wilson become a much better quarterback as time goes on, especially as the team matures around him. I feel like we're slowly starting to see the culture of the New York Jets change from what we saw at the end of the 2000s when Mark Sanchez was leading them to the AFC Championship 2 years in a row to that ugly 2010s Jets team that just never, ever, ever saw the light of day in terms of being above any other team in the East or in the AFC for that matter.
it's still
This was,
crazy how that happened, though. The Jets made back-to-back AFC championships. Still feels like a fever dream a little bit. If that happens.
and not only that, considering this has just been a franchise that really is a forgotten one, a laughable one. When people think the Jets, it's a joke. It's a big joke to them. And hey, based on the way, they've played, I hate to say it, yeah, they kind of are. So I mean, throughout time, it's been a rough one, but hey, maybe Zach Wilson is the bright spot for this franchise's future going forward.
I mean, hopefully, yes. Hopefully, this gives him the extra boost of testosterone he needs going into next season.
And we'll see if this drama gets the better of him. But so far,
Though I don't think it will.
No, I don't think so.
You
Especially
got some good. The Jets fans are really proud of their boy right now. So I think he'll be okay.
All right, so now we move into the final segment of the show, discussing Major League Baseball very briefly. Baseball about to hit the end of the first half on Tuesday. The All-Star game happens, and then on Monday, the Home Run Derby. So the first half will conclude as of Sunday. The second half begins shortly after. Currently, right now, when you look at the rankings in the MLB, we'll start at number 10. At number 10 right now, St. Louis Cardinals sitting at 48 and 43, looking like they've got themselves a very good squad going forward with Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt leading the charge. As we move up, we look at number 9, the Philadelphia Phillies sitting at 46 and 43. Kyle Schwarber, second in the home run race, first in the NL in terms of home runs. He's sitting on 28 home runs as of right now. Will participate in the home run derby, I believe. I could be wrong about that, actually. Never mind. He's not going to. But anyways, Schwarber was on the Boston Red Sox last year. They traded for him. So it's kind of a little sad to see that he's doing well on this team, but he's been leading the charge since Bryce Harper broke his finger after taking a pitch to the hand about a month ago. And then scrolling up, you got the Milwaukee Brewers sitting at number 8. This is a solid squad. Very interesting batting unit. Very similar to the San Francisco Giants that won several World Series together. Number 7, the Boston Red Sox, which I was not...
This is a power ranking list?
Yeah, this is a power ranking list I'm looking at. So the Boston Red Sox sitting at number 7. And Duffy, we talked about them really at the start of the season and how they just looked absolutely atrocious. The team slowly has started to begin to figure things out. They're in a slump right now. They've dropped 3 of the 4 games against the Rays. They play the Rays again tonight. We'll see if they'll be able to take a game away from them before they go to Yankee Stadium for the last 3 games of the first half and see what they can do there.
Baseball's crazy, man. I mean, this is a Red Sox team. It was sitting kind of comfy in the AL wildcard race about a week ago. They've lost 7 of their last 10. In the meantime, the Orioles and Mariners both on 10-game winning streaks. Mariners now have the same record as the Sox. Once a team that was 5 games under 500. Now they're 5 games over 500. Red Sox were 7 games over. Now they're only 5. And The Baltimore Orioles too haven't made the playoffs in a long time. They've been the laughing stock of the AL the last half decade or so. 10 games in a row, not
Yep.
only trailing the Red Sox by 2 games. Baseball's crazy. This is the time of the year where it heats up in the summer, mid-season. It's where teams start to make or break, and we're seeing it right here.
And I believe as of August 2nd, it might be August 3rd is the trade deadline in the MLB. So a lot of teams will be making trades very close to that time and just a few days before even. So teams are going to be looking at players very soon. And we'll definitely have some discussion going forward on that. But continuing up this rankings list, sitting at number 6, the San Diego Padres looking really good. Manny Machado been producing pretty solidly. Jake Cronenworth's really stepped up for the squad, and they're doing all of this sitting at 50-40 without Fernando Tatis Jr. It's nothing short of tremendous for this ball club, and they look like they're going to keep soaring high as they chase the Los Angeles Dodgers for that number 1 spot in the NL West. Now looking at number 5, another team that's really shocked me, the defending World Series champions Atlanta Braves have shocked the MLB after going on a 14-game win streak about a few weeks ago, and they're looking in a position to be only a few games behind the New York Mets, who currently lead the division. We're looking at a similar situation that happened last season in which the Mets were on top of the East by a mile, and suddenly something happened. The whole team fell apart. This team's still struggling without the efforts of Jacob deGrom, and we'll see if they'll be able to bring him back, but we'll get more towards that as we get towards the Mets. But as for the Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr. looking excellent. Without Freddie Freeman, Matt Olson at first base has just been unbelievable for them so far. And Austin Riley at third, playing really well. Dansby Swanson being amazing as usual. This ball club looking really good as they sit at the number 5 spot as we're about to hit the All-Star break. Now scrolling up to 4 is the Mets. Max Scherzer being acquired by them this past offseason. That was hands down one of the best moves they could have made in terms of boosting their starting pitching staff. And, I mean, in terms of the lineup, it's a decent lineup. It's not something to write home about, but they're getting it done in terms of run production. I look forward to seeing what this team can do going forward. Now, for the top 3 spots, sitting at number 3, the Los Angeles Dodgers. The LA Dodgers, I mean, they went into Wednesday's win with the lowest team ERA in baseball, which is crazy to think about because they are without right now Walker Buehler, and Clayton Kershaw has quietly crawled back into the conversation. But Tony Gonsolin and Tyler Anderson have been huge for this team. Tyler Anderson, acquired from the Pittsburgh Pirates, was an average starter, nearly threw a no-no this year. And Tony Gonsolin sitting with the best pitching record in baseball at 11-0, pitching a 2.03 ERA right now. He's looking solid for this team. And, I mean, the lineup has looked pretty good throughout. We'll see how they do going forward down the stretch. This is a team I can't stand. I cannot stand. And, of course, the next two, I literally just can't stand at all. And we'll get to that.
Yeah, you definitely can't, huh? You can't stand it. The
No.
two Mickey Mouse teams.
Yeah.
Of pro baseball. Just in sports in general.
Absolutely. And looking at number 2, the Houston Astros sitting at 57-30. This is the defending AL champions last year who went to the World Series and lost to the Atlanta Braves in 6 games. This team, nothing short of talented. Very talented squad, including I think he plays shortstop for them, Jeremy Pena. Jeremy Pena graduated from Classical High School out of Providence. Came from the Dominican Republic, I believe, and was drafted out of the University of Maine by the Houston Astros. And now he's a starter for this team in his rookie season.
He went to Classical?
Yes, he's from Providence.
So he's a hometown hero?
Yeah, well, dude, when I went to Fenway to watch them play the Astros this season, there was so many Astros fans there. A lot of them with Pena jerseys.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people turned out for it. It was pretty crazy to see because it was the game we saw was the first game of their series against Houston.
We should pop out for a game and wear his jersey.
Yeah, I mean, they're not coming back, but,
Then say, psych, they're cheaters.
that's all that's what we were chanting when Altuve came up. But honestly, at this point, Yankees fans got to chill out with that because that's long gone at this point. And now, finally, my most hated team in all of sports, sitting at number 1 at 62-26 with the MLB's best record this season, the New York Yankees. The Yankees have looked like nothing short of the ball club that they should have been for the last 2 to 3 seasons. Aaron Judge is playing at an unbelievable level. We see Josh Donaldson get brought over from the Twins in a trade when they trade Gio Urshela and Gary Sanchez over there. They get Isaiah Kiner-Falefa from the Texas Rangers to play short so they can move Gleyber Torres to second. Things are just clicking with the New York Yankees. Garrett Cole looking like he's on a Cy Young path once again. This bullpen solid, even without Aroldis Chapman back in the lineup just yet. He might be back now. I'm not 100% sure on that. But looking at the Yankees, this is a make it or break it season for them. They need to win it all because if they don't, they've already got contract problems going on with Aaron Judge. They managed to solve his arbitration deal before the deadline. And now at this point, if they can't come to an agreement, he's probably going to walk after the season, go into free agency. So for you New York Yankees fans, you've got yourselves a great team. But once again, don't brag about your 26 championships to me, baby, when you've only won one in the last 20 years. I don't want to hear it. I really don't want to hear it. The 08 season, I don't care. You need to win it all again. This team has dropped it so many times in the postseason in recent years. Aaron Boone looks like a fool out there half the time. If this team wants to put it together, this is the squad to do it. Or else they'll never get the chance again.
Fool out there half the time. It was funny.
Yeah. So that's Chet's thoughts on the MLB power rankings right there. Red Sox, really, they just need to put the rest of it together going forward because looking at the way their schedule has been, it's been tough these last couple weeks. I managed to go and catch a game at Fenway. They lost 6-5. I did get to see Devers hit 2 home runs in that game. Both of them were the runs to score to make the 5 points in that one. They actually are playing Tampa right now. And then after this series, they are going to go on the road once again to Yankee Stadium to play the Yankees and conclude the first half of the season. And then we hit the All-Star break. And then
big stuff coming up for the show.
Yeah. And then I'm actually going to be back there on Tuesday, the 26th, to see them play the Cleveland Guardians.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going up there with my brother, my dad, and then my friend from Pennsylvania. And the night we're going, pretty cool. It's David Ortiz Hall of Fame pin night. So
that's pretty dope.
Hoping he'll be at the game because that'd be freaking amazing.
Dude, I'm going to the Field of Dreams.
Shut up. You're lying.
Yep, I lied.
Are you going?
No, I lied, dude. I lied.
You know that they're going to do that again this year, right?
Yeah, because last year's game was so sick.
Yeah, and last year is like the teams they used in the movie, the White Sox and the Yankees.
So they're going to do the same teams again?
They're going to do the St. Louis Cardinals and the Chicago Cubs this year, I believe.
That's right. Two classic teams, though.
Definitely. So, I mean, I'm excited to see where the Red Sox season goes from here. But time will tell. It's just baseball's one of those games where one game literally means nothing in the long stretch of things.
Yeah, doesn't mean anything.
But all right, that does it for us here on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. Thank you all for tuning in once again to this week's episode. News being stale, but we're trying to keep up with it as much as possible. We'll be sure to have more NBA offseason talk when more moves happen because we're still waiting on some moves, including I'm hearing rumors, Duffy, of Donovan Mitchell potentially getting traded from the Pacers.
Or yeah, from the Jazz.
Oh, the Jazz? I've read that headline wrong, man.
He's on the Jazz now, but they're thinking about blowing up the whole team, so hopefully we'll have something for that next time when we're back.
Absolutely.
Or he wants to go to the New York Knicks, though, because he is from New York. He was showing at the Mets game the other week, trying to mix up these two sports, some baseball, basketball talk.
I can't stand the Knicks either. I really can't stand that team.
Yeah, they suck, man.
But we'll have more coverage of the NBA going forward. NFL, of course, getting closer, Duffy. I'm really getting excited for that. We might have to cover some college football this year, too.
Yeah, for sure. We're definitely going to be tapped into everything. And college basketball, college football, you name it, we're gonna be tapped into a lot of different sports this upcoming year.
Absolutely. So thank you all once again for tuning into this week's episode. This is Chet and Duffy signing off, and we'll catch you all on the next one. And as always, go Pats.
Go Pats, baby.
Peace.